Welcome to allaboutyourbenjamins.com. This is the weekend review for December 16th, coming to you a day late. Had the day in the life of a single parent. Yesterday my wife had a holiday show that she brought her store to. So it was dad, 3 boys, a newborn, now a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. We had basketball, birthday parties. So just to get a chance to get this video done, did not want to shortchange it, so waited one more day. But we're going to go over this week's events that may be impacting your planning or your investment. Got a little pop culture at the end as far as some fun things to talk about. But let's just right off the start. We're going to talk about the tax bill. Looks like there's the votes to pass it. We got some more of the details. I've got my little cheat sheet here of some of the bullet points that I'm going to bring out and just bring to your attention. Caveat, not tax advice. I'm not a tax professional. As a financial advisor, we deal with taxes, some planning and some strategy, but I'm not giving you tax advice. Just some highlights from the bill. If you're watching this directly on YouTube, head on over to the blog. I'm going to put some links below my weekly reads for some links for this video, particularly some of those being towards the tax bill and some highlights so you can read more. But some of the highlights are there are now going to be 7 tax brackets, which are going to be lower than in the past. We're going to have a $24,000 standard deduction, which means most of us now, or most of you out there, I don't know where I'm at, most of us will probably not be doing itemized deductions anymore. We'll just be taking the standard deduction. If you have enough to itemize, the state, local, and property tax deductions are going to be capped at $10,000. Miscellaneous items are going to be no longer to be deducted. So that means your CPA fees, the fees that my clients pay me as far as investment management advisory fees, those will no longer be able to be deducted from your taxes. Child tax credit is going to be doubled. AMT exemption is still going to be there, but it is higher, so hopefully that AMT will impact less people. Stinks for those that it's still going to impact. It would be nice to see that go away, but nonetheless it should be impacting fewer people. The estate tax is going to be doubled to $11 million. That is a goal for all of us. Let's maximize that and get our estate as close to $11 million as possible so it can pass without estate taxes. And finally, the FIFO that I referenced last week, the first in, first out taxation of non-retirement account investments, that is not in the bill. So don't have to worry about FIFO becoming the main way to pay the taxes on your taxable investments. We can continue to do average cost and be picking specific lots if that makes sense for your plan. So that's the quick rundown. Votes appear to be there, so that will be probably the new tax bill going forward. Again, consult your CPA, your tax professional, about how that may impact your planning. And then also check the link on the below on the blog. If you're on YouTube, there'll be a link to the blog in the notes, but the actual articles will be on allaboutyourbenjamins.com. Just some more higher level reading on the tax bill so you can learn more about it yourself. These are just some of the highlights. After the tax bill, earlier in the week, the Federal Reserve, to no surprise, raised interest rates. So we're continuing to move in that direction of rates being raised. Overall, it's a good sign. That means the economy is continuing to do well and employment numbers are good. So don't expect to see your savings rate increase anytime soon. At the same time, don't be surprised to see the borrowing costs, those rates go up a little bit. It's kind of funny how those things work, right? The interest rates begin to creep up. We don't get to see it in our savings, but you'll probably see an increase in the rate to borrow. This rate that the Fed raised, it is not directly related to those borrowing and the savings rates, but there's the trickle-down effect that eventually it'll get there. So the Fed raised rates, no surprise. Looks like they're going to be continuing to do that into the future. Markets continue to rise, so we're at highs in the markets, continuing to go. The tax bill was a positive for the markets, so we'll see how that continues through the year. Again, 13 months in a row of positive markets. We're working on the first ever calendar year of 12 months of consecutive positive months. So we'll keep an eye on that. In addition to the markets climbing higher, everybody's favorite subject, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, those continue to march to all-time highs. I've been pretty vocal in sharing my experience, which again was an experiment to learn about this asset class, or whatever we want to call it, so that when clients asked me a question, I felt as if I was confident enough to have an educated conversation and then know where to direct them for their own resources. So part of that experiment was purchasing it and being fully transparent, full disclosure out there. I actually sold some of my cryptocurrencies over the week just basically to take my initial investment out. parked it in cash. I'm letting the rest ride. It's done real well. I was lucky as far as the timing of getting in. Just doing that to kind of get back out and kind of close that into the experiment and let things go. Should I put any back in, I'll share that with you. I'm going to go another disclaimer as I did earlier. My sharing of my cryptocurrency experiment is not any form of a recommendation. It's to learn more, to be able to educate, share with you all maybe the best ways to buy, the best ways to store, things to consider. My hope is that I scare you about cryptocurrencies, and if after I scare you about them, how complex they are and how a pain it is to manage them, if you still decide you want to invest in it, then you're really committed, as opposed to just kind of FOMO, fear of missing out on what's going on. So full disclosure, I sold enough to take my initial investment out. I still have the 3 currencies that you can get on Coinbase. No plan to purchase any more, but if I do, I'll share that just to be, again, transparent. I have no desire to make money on my cryptocurrencies by the information I share. It's just to give you information so you can better educate yourself, because these aren't going anywhere. We're going to hear more and more about them, and we're going to be more interested in buying them, so I want you to be prepared for those purchases. Next up, you may or may not have heard about this, but the FCC repealed the 2015 net neutrality ruling. So if you don't know what this is, net neutrality was established in the last administration basically to make sure that on the internet nobody gets preferential treatment. So it provided that all internet service providers needed to treat data the same, meaning there's no pay for play. One company can't pay more money to the internet providers to have their information go through faster or be centered as far as the focus of what maybe articles might be. So this was repealed. This is a very confrontational ruling, kind of like the cryptocurrencies. You've got 2 ends of the spectrum. Those that were against the repeal of the ruling say that we're going to have our internet costs go up, our speeds are going to go down, everything's going to be unbundled, and we're paying for everything. In addition to that, the information we receive may be compromised because you can have certain agendas paying more to have their information come through faster. And I don't know, but that's one side of the argument. The argument for the repeal says that it's going to be offering more competition. It's also going to provide us, the consumer, more options because the companies can unbundle things and allow us to choose what we want. So costs could go up, costs could go down. I don't know. If you think about it, if you don't use a lot of internet and you're paying the same rate as me, as my family, who we stream everything, we're always on it, it's probably better for you. For those heavy users, maybe it's going to be worse that we're paying more, but we're paying what we use for. So I don't know. These are the type of things that I kind of just play the middle. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. You know, this started in 2015. I don't personally notice any difference to the way the internet works for me from 2014 till now. Maybe I'm naive and don't notice that, but the internet existed before this went in. Well, I wasn't paying everything individually. Everything was kind of all there. So maybe we do have a few more fees pop up for some of us. Maybe some of us have fees go down. But at the end of the day, this is out there. Be aware of it and keep an eye on it, because obviously there are going to be some legal battles to try to revert it back. Be interesting to see. But nonetheless, that did go on this week. The FCC repealed net neutrality, so we'll have to pay attention to see if the internet changes. One other thing, that because this became, because my video was a little late, the Mueller investigation pops back up in the news as far as looking into Russia's interactions with the White House. The White House is charging the Mueller administration, the Mueller investigation, with obtaining emails illegally. So what does it mean? Where does it go? I don't know. This is just kind of some newer news. It'll play out probably in the next couple of weeks. May have some short-term market fluctuations and impact, but for you as a long-term investor and having a plan, it'll end up being noise. So if it spooks the markets a little bit, it spooks the markets in the short term, and it'll come back. So just know that that's out there, and probably hearing more about it. Twitter will probably be lit up over the next week with some great comments out of DC as far as this goes. But nonetheless, that's another thing. And finally, the last news thing before we get into some pop culture, big merger. Disney is buying part of 21st Century Fox for a bunch of stock. So Disney is expanding what it's going to have. I like Marvel, not a big X-Men fan, but now Disney has X-Men. It'd be interesting to see if there's any or intertwine between those. But that's a big merger. Mergers are good. that means that the economy is doing well. Companies are not afraid to grow by making purchases. So it's a good sign to see that. It's been talks for a while. We'll see if there's any pushback from the government as far as not letting this go through because of competition reasons. But Disney is going to be buying 21st Century Fox, or part of their assets, I guess. Sorry, not all of it, part of it, provided there aren't any government interventions saying no. So that's the big news. I always like to try to sprinkle in some fun stuff because some of the news stuff can be a little bit overwhelming. This week, two big things. Star Wars The Last Jedi opened up. We have not gone to see it yet. We probably will. I didn't grow up being a Star Wars fan. Watched the old ones. We watch them with the boys. They like them, but we're not huge Star Wars fans, but we'll still go see it because we've seen all the other ones, so might as well. So Star Wars The Last Jedi is out. And then Eminem had a new release, Revival. After my first couple listens, I don't love it. I don't hate it. For point of reference, my favorite Eminem album is The Eminem Show. So if that gives you any reference point for what I'm looking for out of him, that is my favorite album. Lyrically, I think it's a very good album. I appreciate his willingness to tackle some of the tough topics that are in our society today. My biggest complaint more is the production. Miss the Dr. Dre beats that he used to have, but the music of the background music and one of the beats that he was rapping to didn't really get me excited on all of them. There's a few good songs, a few songs that I really like, but overall it's an Eminem album, so it's good to hear some good lyrics in there, some silly lyrics in there like always, but I don't love it. Now I sound like the old guy who, back in my day, music was great and not liking the newer music. I gotta imagine it's tough for an artist like that to continue to evolve and still be the way they once were. So anyways, Eminem has a new album. Of course I'm going to bring it up. My love for hip-hop will always be a part of the writing and blogging that I do, so you're going to hear about it from time to time. But that being said, we're going long, so we'll wrap this up. Those are the events from the past week that may have impacted your planning, your investment, and you may have heard. So below are the links for this week's reads, my favorite articles from the week. Go through, check them out, and then below those there will also be some links follow up to the tax bill, and I also have a couple links for net neutrality so you can read up on that as well and understand more about what that is and kind of form your own opinion. So I hope you enjoy those reads, hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next week. Thanks and have a good one.